Hello and welcome to another Scratch tutorial. We're making our Pong game. Now we got the ball bouncing around the screen, looks beautiful. Let's add a paddle. So we're going to go New, Sprite, and click Things just to narrow it down. And then we're going to click on the paddle. Double click, and it automatically gets put into the frame. Now the first thing you want to do, because we're going to put the paddles on the right and the left, we're going to go up here while the paddle's selected. We're going to go Costumes. And now we're going to zoom in to make our lives a little easier here. Too much. Now, we want to make sure that the center, as far as Scratch is concerned, the center of the paddle is actually the center that we see. So if you go up here, you can set costume crosshair or coordinates. I don't know what that says. It goes off the screen. Click it anyway. Now look for the center of the paddle and click and try to align it as close to perfect as you can. Doesn't have to be quite perfect. This is good enough. Now, as far as the program is concerned, that is the center of the object, and that is the coordinate that Scratch cares about if you're setting the X and Y coordinates for the paddle. Now, click on the paddle, and we also need to rotate it. So, click on this little circle up at the top and just rotate. If you're having trouble, like it moves really fast, drag farther away from, still holding the mouse button down, go farther away from the pivot point, and you can move it a lot more slowly and carefully to try and line it up perfect with the background. That looks pretty good. So now we can zoom back out. If we just click on the equals down here and go back into scripts. Now we want to program this thing. So just like the ball, we want controlling this to start when the green flag gets clicked. So if we go to events, one green flag clicked, drag it out there. Now, we also, just like the ball, want the paddle to go to a certain spot every time this game starts. So if you end the game with the paddle off here and then you start a new game, you want it to go back to the middle. So drag it roughly to where you want it to be. And then if you click on motion, you can go grab the go to X equals whatever and Y equals whatever, throw that in there. And now to check, if you check these boxes by X position and Y position, you can see where the paddle is on your screen. Now, if you use a paddle like mine, you might have very similar numbers. You might even get the exact same numbers. If you use a different sprite, these numbers could be totally different. It all depends on if you use the same things that I'm using. Now, I think I'm going to make the Y position 0 because I want it to start there. So that just means up and down. It's going to start centered on the page. X position, it's at 224 right now. I think I'll make it 220. And if I click here, so that's where it's going to start every time we run this. Now, let's try making the paddle move. Now, once again, we want to be able to control this forever. As long as the program is running, we want control of it. So if we go control forever, this is going to tell Scratch, as long as the program is running, do whatever's in this block. So we want it to sense if a key is being pressed. I'm going to use the up and down arrow keys. You can use pretty much any button you want on your keyboard. So I'm going to go grab an if then block, drag it in, and I'm going to grab 2 because we're going to need a second. So we want Scratch to say if the up arrow is pressed, go up, or something similar to that. So if we go sensing, we can sense different things that are happening on the computer. So if we grab key, right now it's key space is pressed, drag that in there, we can change that to an up arrow. So you could use any of these options, but I like the up arrow because it seems the most logical. If the up arrow is pressed, we want to change the Y value by, let's say, 10. Sounds like a good number. So if you go change y by 10, this means that forever, if the up arrow is pressed, move, move y, the y value of the paddle, increase it by 10. So it's just going to make it move up. So if we run this right now, and I hit the up arrow, it won't go anywhere unless I actually click the green arrow and do it properly. So now I hit the up arrow, it goes up, but it doesn't come back down. So let's add the down key. So back in sensing, the same if key is pressed. Now we're going to make it the down arrow. And we're going to go back in motion and change Y. Oh, make sure you grab change Y, not change X, because that won't do anything good. Change Y by -10 to go down. So now if we try and run this, we can move up and we can move down. Now notice we go way off the screen, which kind of isn't what we want. So let's put a limit on how high this thing can go. So stop it again. And now we don't care about the X position anymore. We set that, it's good. Let's take that off the screen. It's just extra information we don't need. Now if we grab the paddle and drag it up about as high as we want to go, we see that this looks like a good spot. It's slightly off the screen, but that's okay. We've got a Y position of 150. So I think it's a good idea to tell Scratch if the Y value of the paddle hits 150 or greater, don't go any higher. So now we have to make this a compound statement. So if we go in operators, we have an AND block. Now what this AND block allows us to do is test two conditions at the same time. So we want if the up arrow is pressed and the Y value is less than 150, then you can go up. So if we grab a less than block out of here and drag it in the second part, and we'll stick 150 in there, and then we'll go back to motion, and we'll grab the Y position of this sprite and throw it in there. So now we're telling Scratch if the up arrow is pressed and the Y value of the paddle is less than 150, then you can go up. Otherwise, don't go up. Now we want to do the same thing on the bottom because we don't want it to go off the bottom. So if we drag this down to right around there, it looks like -150 is going to work. Because we put the center of the paddle, or the center of the crosshairs right in the center of the paddle, it makes sense that we can use the negative of the same value. So we're going to go back in operators. We're going to grab an AND. We're going to throw the down key pressed into there and stick it back into the if condition. And now we need greater than this time. Stick that in there and put -150. Remember, these numbers could be different if you used a different sprite or if you set the center of it a little bit differently. Now go in motion and grab the Y position again and drag it in there. Now if we run this, it should stop when it hits the top or the bottom just like that. Now notice the ball is still going through the paddle. That's not an issue. We'll take care of that in a bit. So what we've told Scratch overall in this one, when the green flag is clicked, tell the paddle, go to X coordinate 220 and Y coordinate 0. And then forever keep checking if the up arrow is pressed and the Y position is less than 150, go up by 10. Or if the down arrow is pressed and the Y position is greater than -150, we can go down. And it just continuously checks this over and over until you end the program. That's it, and in the next video, we will make the ball bounce off the paddle.